go off topic slightly. There was a story in the Phoenix, or the most recent edition of the Phoenix, in relation to your appointment to Phil Meany as the chairman of the Irish Greyhound board. You appointed him on April 11th, 2011, 24 hours before the process for formally vetting chairman of semi-state companies was implemented by the government. Were you aware that he wouldn't have to be vetted by the government when you appointed him, and was that motivate your decision?
Well, no, I mean, first of all, right, that was when his decision was announced, but I made the decision to appoint Phil Meany well before that. And actually, when his appointment was ratified by Cabinet, I made it very clear that Phil would be asked to go before the Oireachtas Committee, and he has been available to go before the Oireachtas Committee for a hearing linked with his chairmanship. So there was nothing untoward about that. Bortnagon needed a chair badly. You've covered the greyhound industry in a lot of detail, and you'll be very aware that that it's an industry that has had some difficulties in the past. I was anxious to make sure that Bortnagon had leadership at the head of the board. I met and I spoke to Phil Meany about that. I felt he could give that leadership. I still feel he is and can give that leadership. We have also subsequently, and this would have happened in my view many months ago if it hadn't been for Shane McAtee passing away, announced a review of the greyhound industry on Bortnagon, just like we did of Horse Racing Ireland and the horse racing industry. And when we get that review and recommendations from it, we'll act on that quickly, as we've done in the case of horse racing, and as we've done, for example, with BIM and lots of other, and Cretia and so on. So just to be clear, because I know that you've written and others have commented on it, that there was something untoward about Phil Meany's appointment. There wasn't. The reason why I looked for a sanction to appoint Phil before the full system of vetting, if you like, of chairs was because Bortnagon did not have a chair. There was a vacuum and a problem linked to that vacuum as far as I was concerned. And so I made that very clear to my cabinet colleagues, and everyone was very comfortable with it, and Phil Meany made it very clear that he was willing to go through the full process of vetting that was put in place for everybody else.
And just finally, I only have this question, but how can you feel about the optics of appointing a strategist for Phil Hogan immediately after the election to the board of a semi-state body, and 2.5 years later, he still hasn't appeared before the Oireachtas Committee, despite the fact that you have appointed new chairs to Horse Racing Ireland and the Irish National Club, and very shortly after their appointment, you were able to find, the Agricultural Committee was able to find time in order to vet them, but 2.5 years later, there's no sign of Phil Hogan coming before it, and obviously he's
Phil Hogan is going to be going before anybody. Let's be clear, right? Phil Meany is the person talking about here. There's all sorts of instances there now, right? Like Phil Meany is somebody who has had a lifetime involvement with greyhound racing and knows an awful lot about the sector. I did not know a lot about the sector when I came into this job, and I felt I needed a chair who understood the sector. I know that there has been division within greyhound racing for some time, and so what I wanted to do was to put somebody new in charge, and to then, my Minister of State actually, current Minister of State and previous Minister of State is responsible for the management of the greyhound industry, and I have allowed those Ministers of State to make all of the other appointments, and I haven't really intervened in that, although I certainly was of the strong view that we needed a review of the industry, because we're reviewing all of the state agencies and state bodies that are linked to my department. But I would strongly defend Phil Meany as an appointment. I think he cares a lot about the industry and wants to provide a very transparent leadership and has welcomed the review of the industry and is looking forward to implementing the recommendations of that. Phil Meany has been available to go before the Oireachtas Committee from the day he was appointed. I've spoken to the chair of the committee and recently written to him, Andrew Doyle, and the fact that Phil hasn't come before the Agricultural Committee has not been the fault of Phil Meany. and my understanding is that the Agricultural Committee will have him before the committee when they can. He has, I've written again asking the Agricultural Committee to bring him before them. There's a reason why that hasn't happened, because there is Bord Nagan were to come before the PAC, I think, and so there was an issue around that. But to be fair to Phil Meany, the fact that he hasn't come before the Oireachtas Committee on Agriculture is not because he hasn't been willing to make himself available. He has from the very outset. I think it's very important. Like, we have nothing to hide on this issue, and I mean, you rightly ask all the hard questions about greyhound racing. You're probably the journalist who knows it in the most depth. But genuinely, if there are issues that need to be uncovered and questions that we need to answer, we'll answer them. But the appointment of Phil Meany, in my view, was a good appointment, and I think he, over time, will prove to be a very good chair of Bord Nagan.
Okay.